had some downtime and made an addition to the late model. Hello, my name's Slipper. Welcome to my garage. All right, so first things first, we need to get that engine out of here. And this isn't just an exercise in redundancy. If you've been following along, watch the other episodes, we couldn't get this thing to run like it's supposed to, honestly. And when I did finally get it running, it just was not happy at all. Ran a compression test on it, and all of the cylinders were way down on compression, especially cylinder that one. On top of that, had another cause for concern, and I'll show you. All the spark plugs are pulled out, so this thing realistically should roll over like a big, lazy St. Bernard, and no big deal. And I got a breaker bar on the crank right now. If I push on it, nothing happens. Obviously, we got a lot going on here, and I'm not sure what. I'm going to pull the heads off. That way I can look down in the cylinders and get an idea of what's going on. I'm also thinking with the heads off, it'll make it easier to get the block and everything out around the exhaust system. That's just a nightmare. So yeah, we're going to get the heads off, get this out of here, get plan B, a backup motor of sorts, which is no longer the backup but now the primary. And I'm still not sure what exactly we're going to do there, but we're going to get some sort of engine in here so that way my glasses aren't going to be the loudest thing in this shop. All right, sit rep. When I put the intake on the engine, I use RTV per, manufacturer's specifications. And in the process, I managed to super glue the intake to the cylinder heads and the block, and I cannot get it to come off. I've even enlisted the use of the wrong tool used absolutely incorrectly. As you can see, we enlisted the help of the world's sketchiest engine hoist, and it did not have enough reach to get to the engine to try to pop that intake off. So I put this bar in, 2x2 or whatever that measures out to, 2.5 by 2.5 bar in as an extension. And it actually goes all the way back here, pins in back here, and I promptly bent it. Yep. So I need to rethink my ink when it comes to this. I'm probably going to have to just yank the whole motor out. And in order to do that, I'm probably going to have to break down and buy an adult engine hoist. While we try to figure out what to do at the front end of the car, there is one thing. I'm going to leave a little bit of tension on that lift arm in hopes that eventually it's going to pop that intake off the block. Although, considering the quality and craftsmanship of the Harbor Freight engine hoist, odds are all that's going to happen is the pressure is going to leak out of the cylinder and that lift arm's just going to end up laying on top of the intake doing nothing at all. That's fine. Anyways, so while we try to figure out what to do up front, there's a few things left that we need to do back in the rear of the car. One of them is figuring out what the gear ratio is in the rear end. Now, the gear ratio is, in its most basic terms, the relationship between how fast the engine turns to how fast the rear tires turn. And you're probably wondering, well, why do we need to know that? Well, we'll use the gear ratio to tune the car to the specific size racetrack that we're competing on. Let me explain. See, the engine in this car is supposed to have a peak RPM of about 7,000 to 7,200 RPM. And the power is going to start to come on. It's really going to start to want to pull and produce the most power at about 4,000 to 4,500 RPM. So you've got a 4,000 to 7,000 RPM range that you want to keep that engine at, that kind of sweet spot, if you will. And we'll do that with gearing. You see, the higher the gear ratio, the quicker the car is going to accelerate, and the lower the top end speed is going to be at that peak RPM, that 7,000 RPM. So on a quarter-mile racetrack where you've got short straightaways and you're not carrying as much speed, you're going to want to accelerate really quickly out of the corner, and you're not going to have as much top end speed. Now, the opposite is true with a smaller gear ratio. You're going to have a lot higher top end speed at that peak RPM, but you're going to get there a little slower. You're not going to accelerate quite as fast. So on a bigger racetrack where you've got more straightaway, you're carrying more speed, and you got more time to accelerate, you're going to want a lower gear ratio. If you happen to get it wrong, say you run a quarter-mile gear ratio on a half-mile racetrack, what happens is you're going to come out of the corner and accelerate unbelievably quick and over-accelerate the engine, causing all the internals to become externals, and that's just counterproductive. So knowing what your gear ratio is actually quite important. And these quick change rear ends have two different sets of gears. And we'll show you that here. Back in the day, and some of the stock classes still have to do this, to change your rear end gear, you used to have to either completely change the rear end, take it all out, put a whole new one ready to go in, or if you had a Ford 9-inch, you could just pull the axles out of the sides. The center section came out, this whole big assembly, and then you had to have a whole nother assembly with whatever gear you wanted ready to go, and you could pop that in. And it took quite a while, and it was quite a lot of work. Quick changes now, all you got to do is pop this little cover off here. You got these little aluminum bolts that hold it in place. There's two gears inside. Slide those out. Take whatever gear set you want, slide those in, cover back on, oil, and you're ready to go. Now, I need a catch pan to catch all the oil as we drain it out, and I got one of my wife's cake pans here. Reason for that, two reasons actually. One, it's got this handy plastic hood on it, or lid, so that way I'm going to make less of a mess, hopefully. There we go. And the other reason is the oil is actually going to kind of seep into the pores of the metal there, and it's going to give it that nice no-stick surface. I'll get that put roughly in place where it's going to miss most of the oil as it drops out, or gear loop. And we'll just start cracking these off, just a little 9/16 bolt. And I can show you exactly what I mean. Oh, it smells like gear lube. If you don't know what that smell is, it is right up there with a GI tract infection or something. And you might notice that I am doing the bottom ones first. And the reason that is, if you save them for last, then you're going to have all the oil and everything oozing out. And grease, I should say. Rear end grease? Oil? I don't know. Whatever it is. It's going to be oozing out as you're trying to take those bolts off. And that's just unpleasant. Look, I'm missing one right there. I shouldn't say bolts. These are actually nuts. This is got studs that hold everything in place. I wonder if I got another gasket in case this one tears. No, the other loose. Feels kind of cross-thready. One more to go. Ooh, Yep. That is definitely coming out of there. So as you can see, we've got the quick change gears out. These are just 10 spline shafts. This is your input shaft. Drive shaft comes in through here. It's going to rotate through your quick change gears, and it's going to turn this top shaft, which then turns a ring and pinion gear inside the rear differential, similar to like what you'd have on a passenger car. And right here, these are your quick change gears. And if we look closely, it says it's a set number 4, and that'll tell me what gear ratio these are. You can also sit there and count the teeth and do it that way. And we're gonna actually plop these right back in here. We want the big one on the top and the little one on the bottom. And you can see, as I scrape my head against the deck lid, and you can see how quickly you can change gear ratios on these. Now, we need to try to figure out what the gear ratio in the center section is. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to see how many times the drive shaft spins for one revolution of the whatever this is, the axle drive flange thing. And I've got a mark here, as you can see. And if you look right in there, I got a mark on the drive shaft as well. So what we'll do, like I said, is we'll count how many times that drive shaft spins for one revolution of the axle here. So let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're coming up close. No, we're not. 5, 6, and just a little past 6 rotations. All right, so now that we know it's about 6 and a quarter rotations, what we can do is take that over here to our gear chart, line it up with the gears that we had in the quick change, the quick change gears in the quick change in the back of the quick change that do the quick change gear thing. And that will tell us what the ring and pinion gear is and what our overall gear ratio is, which then I can line up and figure out what kind of gear sets I need for the racetracks we're going to be heading to. So I got my handy quick change gear chart here. What I'll do is I'll run down here, and I got an 04, and that tells me I have a 24 tooth small gear, 31 tooth big gear, which I actually know is correct because I counted them just to be safe. And then we know that I had about 6 and a quarter rotations, so I'll line that up. 6.27, that sounds about right, which means I have a 486 ring and pinion gear. So now I can take, and this right here is going to be my overall gear ratio with the matching set of quick change gears. And I can tailor that to the racetracks that we're going to be heading to. Now, a 627 gear ratio is pretty high. That tells me this, at least the rear end, if not the rest of the car, last ran on something like a quarter-mile racetrack. With tracks that we're heading to, like Kalamazoo Speedway, which is a 3/8 mile racetrack, really fast track, or Berlin Raceway, which is an even faster track, I'm going to need a much smaller gear ratio. But the one that's in the car is probably going to be all right when we go to places like Plymouth. So that's good news. I'm glad to see that because I actually didn't have a quarter-mile gear, so that kind of works out for me. We're going to get that buttoned back up. We're going to put some fresh fluid in it, and yeah, we'll be good to go there. On to the next. So while we were working around in the back here, heard a loud bang, and then the car kind of shook, and there's lots of tinky, bad metallic sounds going on. And well, here, if you remember, we left this old concoction, the world's sketchiest engine hoist, hooked up to the intake, and I had left some tension on that. And what had happened As we walk over here, the intake has finally decided to, well, it lost the battle. We win, and in the process, it scattered all the intake bolts that were down in the little valley there. And, oh, well, if you look at that, radiator cap, that's probably in orbit. And in the process, when the whole car shook and chaos ensued, the two shop dogs, well, they're gone. Scared the hell out of them. But the intake is off. All right, so the intake is off. And before you say something or comment down below in the comment section, yes, I know that I had more adjustment and I could extend this lift arm out further than what I had currently had it set at. Even fully extended, this thing wouldn't even come close to reaching the engine. So the reason I had it tucked back in there is I didn't want to take a chance on bending the stock lift arm with that tube extension stuck in there. And it's probably a good thing I did because, well, you've seen how it worked out for the tube extension. So, and while we're on the topic of said engine hoist, old friend of mine, John Culp, watches the program and called me up and said, man, I am tired of watching you fight with that thing. You're going to hurt yourself. I've got an engine hoist that I'm going to make you one heck of a deal on. So I've got to go and swap out the front wheel bearings on the old Beater S10, hop in that, drive down to Union City Speed Shop, and I got myself a full-size engine hoist. Unfortunately, that means it's going to be all for the race car for tonight. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning bright and early. I'm going to try to get those heads off and try to put the pieces together in this puzzle and see just what the heck happened with this thing. I'm really kind of anxious and want to see what it was. Good morning, and it's day number whatever. Honestly, don't remember how many days we've been working on this little project there, but well, now we're back and back on the race car. And as you can see, we have a new, to me, grown-up sized engine hoist. Big thank you to the fine folks at Union City Speed Shop, my buddy John Culp, for hooking me up with this. This bad boy should have no problem getting the engine up and out of the late model. Excited about that. As I'm sure you saw in the video, we got the heads off and, well, kind of a mess. As you can see, got quite a bit of rust down in here on the cylinder walls. And actually had these soaking. Still cannot get this thing to turn over. All the cylinder walls are rusted up like that. These are actually a couple of the better ones. And unfortunately, cylinder heads really aren't much better. Well, as you can see, there is just a ton of rust on the combustion chamber in these cylinder heads and the valves. Those two aren't as bad. Somehow, we managed to get a bunch of water inside this engine. And it's rusted everything out. I really don't know how. We didn't have any coolant in it. So what I'm thinking happened is I had previously gone through and flushed the fuel system out, and I thought I got everything. I don't think I did. I think we must have sucked a big slug of water into the engine, and that's why I just didn't want to run right. Must have washed the cylinder walls down, and just everything rusted. Really unfortunate. It just a silly, simple mistake, and it's something that's going to cost me a lot of money, but it is what it is. Live and learn, and we'll move on. We'll get this engine rebuilt correctly. But in the meantime, tomorrow I'm going to go pick up a temporary motor, and we need to get this engine the rest of the way out. Well, all sorts of weird noises going on as I'm working out here in the shop, and take a look inside the The old heater here. Hey there, little fella. What you doing? So we're gonna get him out. That's fine. There you go, little buddy. Be free. Not sure if that's supposed to be a good luck sign or a bad luck sign, having a blackbird in your wood stove, but yeah, we got it out. Back to the race car. Alright, 290 hours later, and we finally got the engine out. Of course, 288 hours were spent arguing with that, the whole exhaust system. I'm pretty sure that 180-degree headers are the Chinese finger traps of the motorsports industry. Anywho, the engine, there it is. It's out. Still locked up like a bank on Sunday, but we got it out of the car. And this guy, that thing worked like a treat. Absolutely awesome. Don't mind that. That was just the heater. Man, it helps having the right tools. Speaking of tools, that is for sale. Even though the engine's out, I still want to try to get it to roll over. I want to get a better look at the cylinder walls. Plus, it's going to make it easier to pull the little, I don't know, starter ring gear off the back of the crank here. Can't really call it a flex plate. It's just this cute little guy. Now, I've had these soaking in Marvel Mystery Oil. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a wood block and a hammer. And I'm trying to shock the rings a little bit and get them to break free without actually breaking the rings or the pistons or anything like that. And just give it a little tappy tap. Actually, it just moved. So let's get on the front here. I got a little bit of movement. That's interesting. Get right on in here. Take a look. Really? Let me drop that down a little more. Not as bad as I was fearing. Still quite a bit right in there, but we can definitely work off of this. It'll have to go to a machine shop. But there's still some potential there. So we got the motor rolling over. Got it cleaned up as best as we can for what we're going to do with it right now, which is just roll it off to the side until we can rebuild it. Got the flywheel off the back of it. That's all there is. Little 6.5-inch ring gear here and a little coupler. This is what's actually going to transfer the power from the back of the engine to the transmission. There's this little guy. And then, yeah, that's all the more flywheel this has. And you're probably wondering, well, why is it such a small one? Normal cars got a bigger flywheel or flex plate or something like that. And the reason for that is the less rotating mass you have, the quicker the engine can rev up. On top of that, the closer to the center of the point of rotation you can have that mass, again, the quicker it can rev up. Think about putting a weight on the end of a string, and a lighter weight on a short string, you're going to be able to whip it around a lot quicker than a heavy weight on a big string. It's going to, something like that. So, anywho, got this off, cleaned up. We're going to clean up some of the tools around the shop and everything. I got a whole bunch of them under the car from pulling the motor. Then we're going to jump to fuel system. Before I throw another engine in this car, I want to make 100% sure that I've got all the water out of that fuel system and I am not taking any chances. So we're going to blow out the fuel lines. We're going to flush out the fuel cell. And we're going to throw an additional fuel filter on the car just to be safe. So we're crawling around under the car, cleaning up, and happened to notice this. We've been having issues with the starter wanting to kick out, and this little guy here, that's what engages between the starter and the flywheel on the engine. And you can see the teeth are just absolutely murphed up. So add that to the list. I'll get that replaced. All right, we have taken apart the fuel lines from the tank here all the way to the front of the car to the where it connect to the fuel pump, and then from there go up into the carburetor and all that. I've taken the fuel filter off where it mounted here. We're going to take that apart, clean it out, make sure that's good. Well, I had the lines apart. I took the old air hose here, blew them out. We're going to leave them sit, let them dry out, just make sure there is nothing in them that's not supposed to be in them. And now what we're going to do is we got to flush out this fuel cell just to be on the safe side. And well, I can tell you how I'm going to do it. It may not be the proper way, but it's the way I'm going to do it. Probably a proper way would be to get an electric fuel pump and siphon all the gas out that way. But, well, I don't want to buy an electric fuel pump and a battery to power it. So I happen to have my trusty air hose here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the fuel can there, beat it up against the body. That's fine. Take the outlet line. This would normally go to the front of the car, to the carburetor and all the other stuff there. And set that right in there. And then this is the vent tube for the fuel cell. Goes all the way over there, back down in the fuel cell. And I'm going to take the old air hose. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pressurize the fuel cell. That's going to push the gas out into the gas can. And then once that fills up, I'm going to dump that into the beater S10. And we're going to do that probably about 3-4 times, cycle about 20 gallons of fuel through. And hopefully have this thing all flushed out. So stick that right on in there. And you can watch the fuel cell rise when I pressurize it. It's kind of cool. Sounds like a bad day at the Waffle House. Now that we have the fuel system all flushed out and blown out, we're going to turn our attention to the fuel filters. This is the original fuel filter that was on the car. And let me take this apart here. Pretty simple setup. Inline filter. And it's got this little metal mesh screen that'll filter out any debris and particulates and other doodads that you don't want in your fuel system. So we're going to put that back on. In addition to that, screw this on here, I got one of these. And what this is, it's another type of fuel filter. It's a canister style. So there's a bolt that goes in the top here, holds it all together. Take that out, top comes off. Technically, this will be mounted on the car, so the bottom will come off. Inside is an actual nice little cartridge, fine paper filter. That's going to grab a lot more debris. In addition to that, this big bowl here is going to act almost like an old settling bowl that you have in tractors and whatnot back in the day. And hopefully, if there is any moisture in this fuel system, it's going to settle in here and not make it all the way to the carburetor. We're just going to have to keep an eye on it and change this frequently before we get out to the track and stuff, and keep an eye on and make sure there's no water sitting in the bottom of this. All right, we have the fuel filters in. This is the original one in the original location. Got the canister style right here. Got a hunk of our steel braided fuel line, kind of laid out where we want it, marked where we're going to cut it here with a piece of tape. And we're going to fit an AN fitting on that, thread that on here, and our fuel system will be complete. Show you how we do that. As you can see, we cut our steel braided line. Son of a biscuit. And it's quite sharp. Well, we cut that with a hacksaw. And I got one of these kits from Evil Energy. They don't sponsor us. This is just where I got it from. Anywho, then it came with these nifty little instructions that we're going to ignore. We're going to tape the tape off right there. And we got this nifty 90-degree AN fitting that we're going to use. And this is the, I don't know, it goes together like this. And there's threads in there. And what we'll end up doing is we're going to thread this right on here. Helps if I go the right way. Oh, get on there. So as you can see, we got this on that. And then we're going to take this, throw some oil on this, jam this into that, and then we're going to take thus and throw it into there. We got our new fuel line connected to the fuel filter. That runs up along the frame rail here to our old fuel filter. Now, originally I wanted to have this fuel filter first, but that didn't work out because, let me get you in here, of the way the existing fuel line is routed. I'd have to replace all of that in order to put that fuel filter first. Plus, the upside is this is the original fuel line, comes back here, goes to the tank. That's set up to run to the original fuel filter up here. So if this gives me any grief, or any of the fuel lines that I just made leak, I can disconnect this here and still route that to the original setup that I know worked in the past and didn't leak. And that should button up the fuel system. Well, as you can see, we're wrapped up in the back end of the car. Time to put some of the finishing touches on the front end of the car. Get it ready for the new power plant, whatever that's going to be. Unfortunately, it's been a little bit of a while since this video's come out. I didn't realize just how long until I started going back and looking at some of the editing. Do apologize about that. Some life events came up. Race car kind of had to take a back seat. But we're going to have a bunch of videos coming out. One of them going to be talking about what we've been doing throughout the summer since we haven't been working on the race car. Also, obviously, we're not giving up on this yet. We're going to keep cranking out, try to get it out this year, get some races under our belt. Before we go, though, we started it with the last video. We're going to keep going on this one. We're going to review just how much have I spent on this dumb thing. So if we pull it up here, as you can see, our previous balance was $599. We did have a few quarts of gear lube, $55. The Evil Energy fuel line kit was $52. The fuel filter was $49. Did end up using about 15 gallons of the Rec 90 fuel. That was about $5 a gallon, so $75 there. Did have to replace the quick change gasket. No surprise there. That was $20. And then the aluminum quick change cover plug thing, that was completely rounded off. Had to use a pipe wrench to get that off. That was about $22. And that's going to bring our grand total so far this year to $872. Now, mind you, we haven't even started on any of the expensive stuff with this car. This is just some of the little stuff. Now, granted, this number is down quite a bit because, again, we really haven't got into the expensive or been able to work on this car a whole lot like we wanted to, unfortunately. But next episode, we're going to get the engine in this. I do have one. We'll get into that on the next episode. We're going to talk a little bit about why the delay on the car. And in another episode, we're going to show you just what I've been doing all summer long. In the meantime, make sure to check out our Facebook page. Been doing some Facebook Lives on there, posting some updates as to what's been going on throughout the summer. So look us up on there. Flipper's Garage, look for the logo. Like, share, as well as the YouTube page. Hey, like us, share it with your friends, let them know. We're going to keep cranking on this. Again, I appreciate the support everyone's been giving me so far. I know it's been a long time coming. Most common thing I get asked at the racetrack is, where's the late model? It's coming. That's all I can say right now. It's coming. We're going to try to get it out this year. So, appreciate you tuning in. Until next time, my name's Flipper. Thank you. Good night.
Oh, fat. Way too fat to be doing this.